Hello and welcome to Dumb Phones UK. My name's Joseph and today I've used the Jelly Star device for over a month so that I can tell you how this little device works. Now we know that it runs Android 13, we know it's tiny, and I've just got some basic information on the screen here. The phone itself is, as you would expect, super light. It comes in at 116 grams with the battery. The battery isn't removable, so I don't quite know why they list it as that. The battery itself is 2000 milliamps. It's okay, we'll come on to the battery in a little bit, and in the slot we have a micro SD and also a SIM card slot there. And just to cover off the final things, the display itself is 3 inches and then the rear camera is 48 megapixels and the front facing camera is 8 megapixels. We obviously have to talk size when we look at this phone. You can see it doesn't look the same size as normal phones, and that's because it isn't. This phone is 3 inches wide in terms of its screen. You can see that it fits pretty perfectly in the palm of my hand, and it's just this tiny little device. I'm actually going to show you it compared to my wallet, just as a bit of a size comparison. I think that's quite useful. You can see that it is effectively the size of a wallet. So I've done a few more size comparisons. Here's a credit card. Here's how it looks compared to that. Pretty much the same size. I'm going to grab my iPhone as well to show you that it is much smaller than an iPhone X. However, obviously, sidewise, it's a bit chunkier. But in terms of the screen real estate that you have, it is an awful lot smaller. Now, the big device that everyone wants to compare it to is the Cat S22 Flip. And obviously, size-wise, it is much smaller than that. However, I would say sort of width-wise, it's not dissimilar to the Cat. The Cat is slightly chunkier, but not by much at all, as I can show you here. Typing is an interesting beast on this phone. Usually we would type with our 2 thumbs like this. If we're comparing this to a normal smartphone, you'd type like this. I'm going to show you how it sort of renders. I've found that you do make a couple of mistakes when you do it that way because the buttons are so small. So you do kind of have to change the way in which you type. If you swipe, I would say that that is probably the best way to use this device. I've found the swiping keyboard to be very good. I was a bit lazy trying to type in device here and it picked up and said drive, whereas if you actually spend your time to swipe, it works very well. So the swiping keyboard seems to be the way to go with this. If you don't want to use the swiping keyboard, you've got another option. Speak away and it will pick up and input the text for you. You can see the output of that has worked pretty well, but obviously that isn't always an option for you. If you're out and about or somewhere slightly loud, it might not be available to you. So I just wanted to highlight all of the different type and options available to you. I would say the swiping works well. One big takeaway I've found from using this device for an extended period of time is when you're walking and trying to type, you'd obviously use the 2 thumb system as you do like this on your iPhone. We're all fairly used to typing like that. That's not something you can do on the Jelly Star. It becomes really difficult to actually do. I've got a video of me doing this here. I'm using the swiping feature because I found it particularly difficult to actually type specific keys or intricate passwords. So I tried a different option where I spoke what I wanted to say to the phone. I was out and about. It wasn't particularly noisy where I was, but I wanted to show you the output of how it renders, and it did a pretty good job. Let's dive into maps.
The garden shed.
Here I am out and about trying to find my way to a certain place. This obviously runs Android 13, so it should work as expected. Let's have a look.
The garden shed may be closed by the time you arrive.
Things are all looking good there, and it gives me the directions, and as I move, the phone follows me. I would say that maps, I'm not going to spend long on it. They work as we would expect. This is obviously a tiny device. I mean, look at the size of the text on this screen. You would argue that accessibility-wise it's not great. You can zoom in, however you have to scroll across. It has the full suite of accessibility features, so we're first going to look at Select to Speak.
Build up to Saturday's FA Cup between Manchester United and Manchester City, 1500 British summer time.
Everything worked as expected there, so now we're going to look at Talkback and see how this works on this device as well. I've never used this before. Let's see.
Talkback on. Next button. Double tap to activate. Home. Talkback on. Stop. Talkback off.
The other thing I wanted to look at on this device was the font size. Obviously with the screen being so small, how big can you make it? I have made the font size as big as I can in this video, and I show you what that looks like. I would argue it isn't that big, so if you have accessibility issues or vision impairment, I would say that the font size is probably the main downfall on this device. You can see me writing it out here. This is as big as it can go. I do think that is probably going to be a problem for some people. Obviously, magnification can solve that, and this phone does offer that, but I do think the size of the phone probably renders it not great for people with visual impairment, so I probably wouldn't recommend it for you, but it does have the features if you wanted to give it a go. I just wanted to showcase them because I do think it's useful to know what is available. Okay, we are onto the camera of this device, and obviously, as we talked about earlier, the back-facing camera has 48 megapixels, the front-facing camera has 8 megapixels, so I got out and about and I made some videos for you. I've not edited the audio, I've not changed anything, so you can see how this phone outputs, and obviously decide if this camera is suitable for what you need. Here I am using the front-facing camera. I'm just having a walk out and about, just to show you what the Jelly Star can do. Now, I'm not going to change any of this audio, so you might hear some stuff in the background. And yeah, it's a lovely sunny day out in the UK, so I'm going to try and wander into some sun. There you go. So that is the front-facing camera. I'm being very careful not to touch the microphone at the bottom. So I'm now recording on the back-facing camera on the Jelly Star. I'm just having a wander in the lovely British summer. I'm not going to edit any of the audio, and I hope my face is in and it's all working. But as you can see, this is how the video works on this phone. I've not changed any of the audio, so hopefully it's all right. Just taken a couple of photos as well with the back-facing camera and done a bit of zooming as well to show you how the zoom works on this device too. With a phone this size, one would expect the speakers to be pretty poor, so what I wanted to do was show you how it actually works and whether they are poor. So I've gone on to some royalty-free music on Spotify because I don't want this video to be taken down, and we are going to play it, and I will just leave it and let it play for you so you can hear the volume of these speakers. One thing you'll note as well is I left on the lights on the back so that when media is playing, they do their little funky thing as well. And I'm just going to turn the volume all the way up. I would say the speakers are absolutely good enough on this device if you just want to be playing some music out of them. There's no problem with them there. One other thing to note on this device is it has an aux input. It has a jack, which is amazing. So if you don't want to listen to the speakers and you have wired headphones, well then just plug them in here as we did in the olden days. Amazing, right? Now I appreciate that this device is quite small, so you might need an example or a time where you need to access another device, and this device has Hotspot on it, so you are able to connect and use your data from this device and pass it over to your other device. So what I've done is I'm going to set up my Hotspot and I'm going to connect my iPhone X to it. It's very simple. It works as you would expect on every other Android device. I've turned on the Hotspot and then I'm going to grab my iPhone and I'm going to connect it up. Here you can see the Jelly Star is on my iPhone. I click that and I popped in the password earlier, and you'll see that we get the big old tick, thumbs up. One thing I found so useful on this device after using it for a month was the programmable key. It's this red button here. It's just down from the power button, that power button, or the sort of screen on, screen off button that I'm showing you now. The red button is the one that we can program, and we can long press, we can double tap, we can quick tap, and we can do lots of different features and different options. So I'm hopping into the settings now. You can see that you have a short press setting, you have a long press setting, and you have a double press setting. So I'm just going to make some changes within what we're able to do to show you how this works. So I currently have long press set to open flashlight. So I've just done the short press where it's captured the screenshot as my settings are all set up. I've just done the long press to turn on the flashlight. The long press then also turns off the flashlight. And then I'm also going to double press, and that will swipe down the status bar for us as well. So it's a super useful button to have, and you can customize this as much as you want. There are shortcut functions that you can hop into. You can start recording, you can screen record, you can phone record, or then you can open a specific app as well. Here I am selecting camera on the short press, so I'm just going to show that in action now. There we go, the camera loads up very quickly. I have found that short press is actually probably one that's slightly annoying when I was using it for a while, so I got rid of short press and I set that to no action. So nothing happens, or no operation. Nothing happens when I short press it, which I think is the best thing for me. That seems to work as I'd like. There are other options for this key as well. You can set it to be a symbol key. This links to an external app that I don't have, which would load up some symbols. And the other option is a media playback key, which we're going to showcase now. So I'm just opening up Spotify so that I can play some media for you. I'm clicking play on that and going to be using this key to move songs, stop the song, start the song. So here we go. Let's try it and see if it works. That was me double tapping it, and you can see that the song stopped, and we're going to try it again. Double tap. Starts away. You can also use this button to skip songs as well, which is super useful. So here it is in action. I would say the media playback button, if you listen to a lot of music, is extremely useful. I found that I used it more for the function side of things, but obviously that button is a very powerful button and something that we should all be quite excited by on this device. I think it's a really good addition. Another huge plus on this device is the fact that it has the Google Wallet included. You can set it up. Obviously, when you're paying for stuff out and about, you need to ensure that NFC is turned on, but this device is able to allow you to pay for stuff. That was one big drawback of the Cat S22 Flip, but here you can see that I did do some recent activity. I did that for this video, so I am going to show you a quick clip of me out and about using this device to pay, because I want to show you that I've actually been testing it. What is the battery like is the main question that I get asked about this phone, and it's 2000 milliamps. It's much smaller than our usual Android devices out there, so it is something that you have to charge daily. I haven't found or haven't been able to, if I use it as a normal phone, as my daily driver, it's something that you have to pop on charge overnight. If you do use it as sort of a secondary device, I found that I can get a couple of days out of it, but I would say, it's not the same size as an iPhone. Given the small nature of this device, you do have to charge it every night. Let's look at the performance of this device on perhaps the most resource intensive game out there, Genshin Impact. I'm just going to show you as well the setup. Obviously the buttons are pretty small to select on that screen, so I'm just going to go through this download process and we'll hop in when the game has loaded. Here we are, the game has now loaded, and I want to show you that there's really not any lag.
Your journey ends here. Who are you, the sustainer of heavenly principles?
This is the bit that I wanted to flag up, because once you make your selection on a game like this, the screen size and keyboard size is unbelievably small, so it is quite hard to make sure that you're typing in what you want as you go through. So you have to be very, very measured, and it does take a bit of time to get it right. But you can see here with the gameplay that the phone doesn't struggle at all to actually render the game. Everything seems to work, moving, running, jumping. Everything works without any lag, I'd argue. I'd say that the game works pretty well, which is exciting for a device of this size and a game this powerful and this intensive. I'm going to be honest, I'm not a gamer, so I don't actually know what I'm doing on this. This isn't a game that I would play myself, but I just wanted to show you how it all works. And you can see that everything works. It's just much smaller than usual. From playing these games, I have noticed that anything text-based is unbelievably small, so I did think it was worth flagging that. So you can see here, the text is super small, the buttons to cross out of things are quite small, so you have to be very precise when you're doing that sort of stuff. So just to flag, the text in games is super, super small. The LED lights, are they a bit of a gimmick? Are they anything more? You can access the LED light panel just on your home. It's there as default. It's these lights here that I'm just pointing out, and you can turn them off just by clicking the button on the home screen here, or you can have them on. You can also hop into settings as well, where you have some options for these lights. So I am going to show you the lights. I've already shown you them in music visualization when I played some music earlier in here. You can also just have them on as a torch. That's another thing that people I know use this for. I just use the torch itself, the flashlight. And then the other thing you can do as well is you can have them on for phone calls, and you can have them on for SMS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that they are turned on for phone calls and show you how they render when I call the phone. So here we go. I'm just popping them on, and I'm going to pop my phone down and give myself a ring. There we go, you can see the lights are flashing away. That could be really useful if the phone is down and you know that you just have it on for phone calls. I'm also going to do it for text as well. Here I am sending myself a text, and the text is sent and received. and the lights flash again as you would expect. So again, it could be super useful. I would argue it is a bit more of a gimmick because you can't customize it per person, but that might come later in time. The other thing that I want to tell you about is the bedtime schedule that you have. So you can have the lights on all the time throughout the day, and you can set some times where they will turn off, so just a bit of peace of mind that it's not going to go off in the night and wake you up as well. I think that's quite a nice feature and something that clearly shows they thought about this device. Now, having used this device for a long old time, I can tell you a couple of cons. The microphone and the speaker are at the bottom of the phone, and so I'm just going to show you what happens when you cover that speaker, because that is possible. The phone is so small that you are going to be in a position where that will happen. The other downside is that the microphone is here. I'm pointing out to you, so when you're on a call with somebody and you have this held up to your ear, because of the size of the device, sometimes you can cover up that microphone with your finger, and that obviously is a problem because people then can't hear you, and that's important on a phone call. So another slight con, you can get round it, but wanted to flag it. The other downside that I have noticed with this device as well is the fact that the charging cable is in the bottom right, or the charging port, sorry, so the cable would go into this section here, and once it's in, it's quite hard to use the device. Obviously with the size of it, it becomes a bit difficult to use if you're going to hold it that way. I've just found that it becomes a little bit more finicky to use. Is that the right word? Hope that's the right word. But you can see that when you're having to message, if you would use this device while it's charging, I appreciate that they tell you, every phone tells you you shouldn't use it while it's charging, but there is a situation where that is going to have to happen, right? And this is a bit of a problem. The placement of that device is a bit of a pain. It also is a bit of a pain when you're using it in the car as well, and you're having to charge it while you're driving and like sitting in a phone cradle. Because of the size of it, again, it becomes a bit of an issue. So again, I just wanted to flag that. Not a deal breaker, but something that is worth knowing. Now, the verdict, the final big verdict. I think the simple thing to say is, if you want a transition device or a phone that is able to do everything you need it to do with Android, so say your work has two-factor authentication, say that you need Waze, say that you need Uber, WhatsApp, etc., then this is a brilliant phone for all of that. Sure, the battery life is a little bit slow, but in terms of form factor, size, and the power that this phone packs into its small little device, it is brilliant. However, if you're looking for a device that is a dumb phone, then I would say this is not the phone for you, because while it will reduce your doom scrolling because of the size of it, it's just able to do everything. And obviously that temptation of downloading that social media or playing that game, that is still there, and it's not removed by using this device. So I think the phone is extremely powerful. I'm really, really happy with using it. It's the sort of phone that is going to become my daily driver. Why isn't it at the moment? Because I have to transfer all my videos and all my photos over and do all of the boring stuff, but it absolutely will become my daily driver because it's such a good little device. It runs Android 13 and I'm really, really happy with it. And I've noticed that when I use it a lot less because of the screen size, and that is something that I want to achieve with this device. So thank you so much for watching. Please like, please subscribe. I will see you soon. If you made it all this way, well done, because it was a long old video. Bye bye.